another edition of Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen, along with Coach Guy Suttle this week. It's just the two-man team. Coach?
We're juggling here.
Yeah.
We're juggling.
It's all right. We got our work cut out for us. We had 4 games on the county slate this past Friday night, 3 of which were at home. The other one shouldn't have been played. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Then we'll get a little college football and some NFL action as we had the season opener for the NFL. And my goodness gracious, the high hopes of the Carolina Panthers down the tubes already, it looked like. But anyway, we'll talk about that later in the show. Let's start with our Cleveland County football teams. And we'll start with Burns. We go in alphabetical order each week. The Bulldogs at home against East Gaston, and if there was any hope that East Gaston might be one of the competitive games in this conference this year for Shelby and Burns, that hope went out the door on Friday night as the Bulldogs rolled over the East Gaston Warriors.
They did, and like I say, we in the Big South Conference that we'll talk about here in a few moments, we always talk about Crest, Kings Mountain, South Point +1. In this conference this year, we're thinking you got Shelby, Burns, +1. And I'm not sure who the +1 is because Burns went out and dominated East Gaston. I know they had some frustration built up over the last couple of weeks, but boy, they laid the wood to East Gaston.
Well, no question about that. And as you go into the highlight package here, coming off of, we give credit there to KTC Broadcasting, and you'll just see Burns is going to dominate this football game in every phase, running the football, throwing the football, defensive side of the football, special teams, you name it. They got the job done. And, when you talk about Burns and Shelby coming off Crest and Kings Mountain, both of them, losses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they're playing the weak sisters of the poor, they're playing two really good football teams.
And I agree. And here's the other part of that, and we can see this in the highlights. Burns looks like they're playing at 90 miles an hour, where East Gaston is playing at the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And that's what you get after you've played Shelby I'll get it right in a minute. After you've played Crest and Kings Mountain in those first 2 opening weeks, that's what you're going to get. You are playing at a faster pace than the team that you're getting ready to play. It hasn't played the same type of competition.
Absolutely. The Burns offensive line just gashing that defensive front for East Gaston, allowing the running backs for Burns just to run untouched a lot of times, including on that play there. So, again, Burns just all over East Gaston Friday night, 52-0, the win for Burns, first in the conference, also first of the season. They improved to 1-2. Now we switch over to Crest and that Big South you were talking about. This is a non-conference game for Crest and Kings Mountain, as Shelby and Burns, with that full conference schedule, basically got the 2 non-conference games out of the way in the county rivalry. Now they're in conference. Crest and Kings Mountain still got another week before they do so. Crest against Asheville. We're not real sure about Asheville. We knew they were 1-1 coming into this, Coach. But again, not much going for Asheville on Friday night as Crest dominated the football game.
Well, and had a big rainstorm right before the 2 teams were supposed to go out and warm up. So as you can see there, the field's going to take a beating in this game. Also that took a beating was Asheville up front. They just could not block the Crest Chargers on offense, and then the other side of the ball, it was just, they were getting manhandled up front. One thing about Asheville is very young, but they were undersized and just did not see the speed of the game until it was too late.
Well, you mentioned the rainstorm, but my goodness, that field is awfully chewed up.
I didn't have the rain gauge there, but I would say it would be without a doubt that it rained at least a half to an inch in about 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, the bottom just literally fell out. When the players finally were able to come out on the field, it was standing in water. It did not have time to run off or to settle.
Well, and a lot of times you would think that might favor slow a team down. I'm not saying favor a particular team, especially not in this matchup, but at least that might slow the Chargers down a little bit. From these highlights, it doesn't look like they were slowed down at all.
No, and you saw the touchdown that Asheville scored there. That did have some JV and backups in it, and then they returned the kickoff back. In high school football, you practice special teams with frontline people. I mean, your kickoff return, even if the game is ugly, is not going to be any different than it was the opening kickoff.
Right.
So that's going to happen, what you saw there, even though the game was pretty much settled by that point in time. Kickoff return is kickoff return.
Absolutely. Crest Chargers win that one big time again, 56-12. So we're looking at a cumulative score so far, 52 and 56. My quick math is 108-12. It's only going to get worse, y'all, when we get to the Shelby game here in a minute. But let's go to Kings Mountain and Bandy's. Kings Mountain and Bandy's. Wow, we didn't know that much about Bandy's. They were undefeated coming into that game, so both teams 2-0. And Coach, this one ended up being of the four. This was the slobber knocker, if you will, as Bandy's gave Kings Mountain a fit.
Only scouting report that I had, or any information that I had about Bandy's, was their quarterback. We know we mentioned it last week from the Randy Lohman days that Bandy's was playing a great brand of football. The thing that I think Kings Mountain was a little bit surprised with was their speed. They're going to be well coached, and they brought a good fan base. As you can see there, the quarterback laid that one where nobody could get it but his receiver, and his receiver laid out and got to it. But that was the only impressive thing that I had heard about Bandy's, was that their quarterback was probably a little shorter than the quarterbacks that we're accustomed to here in Cleveland County this year, but that he was a very good quarterback.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that you said that makes me want Bandy's on the schedule is the fact that they bring some folks with them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the things, one of the negatives we've seen over the last realignment period is that a lot of the teams that our schools have hosted in conference and even in the playoffs have not brought that many folks with them.
And as you can see here, it was 27-27 late or halfway, and then here comes a safety with 1:38 left, so they've got to punt or kick off to Kings Mountain, or Kings Mountain's got to punt or kick off to Bandy's, and you see here they basically just run out the clock from there. But that was a very tight game right up to the very end.
Absolutely. So 34-29, kind of an odd score, but you saw the safety late there as Kings Mountain was able to hold on and beat the Bandy's Trojans. And again, it's like we said.
What's the math now?
The math now, what was I at? 108, 108 and 34, so that'd be 142. 142 to, I already forgot. I'm sorry. Let's finish it up with this debacle that was the Shelby at Highland Tech game. We got highlights of that one, Tim. Holy cow. Shelby scored when they got off the bus. Oh, we don't have highlights of that one. Well, that's tough because Shelby got off the bus with a 14-point lead, Coach.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's going to be a tough go for Highland Tech. There's so many different things that could have happened in this game, and after talking to some people that were there, the substitutions that were made, the running clock, taking a knee the last 6 minutes of the ball game. Basically, the JV players they're pulled up or are out there in force, and they score the last 12 points of the game. So I don't know. I don't know what you say.
I was talking to Alan Ford, former Shelby Star sports director, former associate of ours here on Armchair Quarterback. When you go back to the 23 years ago when we started this up, it was Alan, me, and Andy Foster back in the day. Alan got a kick out of my tweet on Friday night when I tweeted that Shelby was going for two because Matthew Grenier, they didn't want to lose the footballs.
Yeah,
he thought I was kidding. He laughed. Yeah. I said I wasn't kidding. They were worried about losing the footballs at the facility at Highland Tech, anyway.
From what I understand.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. From what you understand, go ahead.
The goalpost in the gym, maybe 3 feet between the two, and so every time you kick an extra point, it goes up on top of the gym, and they have made no concessions or ways to get up on top of the gym to get the footballs off. So you're right. Unless you're going in the other direction.
Well, in the other direction there's like woods behind it.
So
anyway, we don't really need to talk about this game anymore. 90-0. You're right. 90-0 is correct. Most points ever by the Shelby High School Golden Lions, Coach. They are the winningest team in North Carolina. They're the 15th winningest program in the country. That's the first time they ever put 90 up.
Yeah, and you know, we all know that a little bit of the history there with Casey Morris, and I mean the team, they were playing games in, I don't know, 1900s, early 1900s, and yeah, it's I don't know what you say.
The previous record, actually, I'll just throw this one in there because all the folks in Kings Mountain will love it. The previous record for Shelby was an 80-0 win over Kings Mountain in 1923. 1923. That's 100 years ago.
Didn't even have the forward pass by then, did they?
So whatever our total was, 140 something and 90 is a 230. It was a bad week to be playing Cleveland County. And you wonder why they have Cleveland County flu in Rutherford County and in other counties when they play Crest, Shelby, Burns, and Kings Mountain. Well, that's kind of why, because it's a difficult place to play. When we come back, we're going to talk college and NFL, and we'll look ahead to what's coming up for our high school teams next week. We'll do that when we come back. You're watching Armchair Quarterback.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month, we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
As Cleveland County's premier event facility, LeGrand Center is the ideal location for any event. The LeGrand Center is located 45 minutes west of Charlotte, 45 minutes north of Spartanburg, and just a little over an hour east of Asheville. Whether you're a small business looking for a place for an off-site meeting or a bride looking for that special location for her wedding, LeGrand Center is the perfect place for you.
Welcome back in for Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen along with Coach Guy Suttle, and we will talk about, as we start this segment, our 4 county games coming up. And on paper, they look like we got some good ones. Lincoln at Burns. Lincoln coming off a 28-0 win over Cherryville. We already talked about Burns with the 52-0 win. Coach, I see this game going in favor of the Bulldogs because a 28-0 win over Cherryville doesn't scare me if I'm looking at that as far as Lincoln goes.
Yeah, you know, we know very little about this conference about Lincoln being in this conference. We know that they've played Maiden. We know that Maiden and Lincoln are about 8 miles apart. We've heard that distance before. We know what the Crest Shelby game is. That used to be a big rivalry, and I think it was like Lincoln scored in the last minute of the game to beat Lincoln. So it's going to be. I think that Lincoln knows what they're getting into. I think their coaching staff understands the speed of the game and what they're getting ready to tangle with. Again, I think Burns is playing at a much faster level than their opponent again this weekend.
Absolutely, and when you think about the Bulldogs, obviously we think about head coach David Devine and his history, as we've talked about many times on the show, on the defensive side of the football. So the fact that they got the offense going the other night, that's a great sign for Burns. But the other side of that was they pitched a shutout against East Gaston.
Yep. Yep, and to be able to score that many points and pitch the shutout, it says you a lot about what your scheme was against East Gaston in that game. We know that Cherryville went into the Lincoln game 2-0, and Lincoln pitched the shutout against them. Still, though, I just don't see Lincoln coming in and playing at the speed that they need to play at to have a victory against Burns.
All right, so that's Burns and Lincolnton on Friday night. Meanwhile, Crest, wow, look at this one, hosting the Weddington team, and Weddington has been on quite a run in the state playoff, state championship over the last while. I think about Will Shipley now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles,
That's
and
right.
it wasn't that long ago Will Shipley was running the football for the Weddington team.
Yep.
This is a big step up in competition for Crest in terms of even what they've had already this season, and they've played some good football teams.
Yeah, and the other thing, and we'll get into this as we get a little deeper into the season, is the RPI rankings. Giving the Big South having two more non-conference games than, say, the Shelby and Burns conference actually helps them because they can go out and play a Nashville, they can go out and play a Weddington team that is going to help their RPI. Weddington is, like you were saying, they're playing for state championships. They're in Union County. They're a little bit bigger school. It's just going to be a good test for Crest High School to see where they stack up, and it can propel you further up the RPI ladder against a good Weddington team.
Absolutely. One of the things that we talk about all the time in terms of keys to the game, keys to win, whatever for our Cleveland County schools is how they do in the trenches. And I would think, how that offensive line for Crest and how that defensive line for Crest does in the matchup with the offensive and defensive lines of Weddington will have a lot to say in terms of the final score in the football game.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the little bit of scouting and what you hear, Weddington is very good defensively up front. And so that's going to be the challenge. And I think it's the challenge anytime to go deep into the season. You've heard me say it even about the Panthers. It's those front five guys on the offensive line that really determines what type of year you're going to have.
All right, so Crest at home against Weddington. That's as good a high school football matchup in the state of North Carolina as you're going to find on Friday night. So go get a ticket, go over there, $10 ticket, and go see that one. That is going to be a tremendous matchup. Next up, Kings Mountain 3-0 at Charlotte Catholic. I think Tim said this is the first time these two have matched up since that 7 overtime game back
classic.
Probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And that one probably still giving Kings Mountain fans and former players nightmares. But this is an opportunity for Kings Mountain, again, to test themselves to see exactly where they stand getting ready to go into conference.
Yeah, and again, RPI rankings do matter. And so here's what we're going to see in an RPI situation where Kings Mountain's able to take on a Charlotte Catholic school. It's going to be a good football game. When Coach Otto was there and this guy that took over for Coach Otto had been his assistant for a number of years, not a whole lot has changed in the scheme. They're going to play great defense. They're going to be good up front, and they're going to try to run the football first. Their first and foremost is going to be running the football. Whether it's Weddington or whether it's Charlotte Catholic, the thing about this game is those two opponents will know about the speed of the game. I can remember going back 10, 15 years ago, first time that Charlotte Catholic and Crest played each other in the fourth round of the playoffs, nobody had kicked the ball deep against Crest in 10 ball games. The first thing they do is kick a field goal. They're up 3-0 and kick it deep to the fastest guy on the field who goes 99 yards for a touchdown. So they understand, Charlotte Catholic and Weddington both understand the speed of the game and what they're going to be up against this Friday night. And I just think both of these games are going to be great games to see.
One of the things that you can say for sure about Charlotte Catholic is they are going to be well disciplined. Yep. And when I say that, I don't mean, out there with a belt. I mean, they are not going to jump off sides. They're not going to do dumb things to get themselves behind the chains. They are going to play smart football and disciplined football. So that will be, again, a great test for Kings Mountain on Friday night. Now, that game's at Catholic. Now, we were just talking about the Highland Tech facilities, not trying to compare the two by any means, but Kings Mountain travels extremely well. So
Yes.
I will say to the Kings Mountain folks, if you want a good seat at Charlotte Catholic, you need to get there early. So anyway, Kings Mountain at Charlotte Catholic on Friday night. Final game of the bunch, Shelby at West Lincoln. West Lincoln coming off, I think the final was, I heard 22-15. They played Bessemer City Friday night. I don't know if that was the final score or not, but needless to say, West Lincoln, the Rebels, back in the conference with Shelby since you were coaching at Shelby. It's been a long time, because that is 20-something years ago, or 30-something years ago now.
Come on now.
All right, sorry. But needless to say, this is hopefully, obviously, a better situation than what we just experienced with Highland Tech for Shelby in terms of the competition, but not sure, because of that tight score with Bessemer City, exactly how good West Lincoln is.
Well, at least the facilities are going to be good.
Better, yes.
Better. Yeah, I mean, I really do. And I think that West Lincoln will understand what's getting ready to happen. Whether they can do anything to weather that storm, I'm not sure. Don't think they will. The Bessemer City score does is kind of perplexing in trying to figure out what Shelby's going to see. I don't see the overall team speed for West Lincoln matching up with the Golden Lions in this game, and I don't think it's going to be 90, but it could get ugly pretty quick.
I tell you, I remember one of the things about West Lincoln when we played them back when we were talking about it a long time ago. One year they just came out foot to foot, had a box, kind of a Notre Dame box backfield that was really tight, and they basically just put 11 people within the hash marks and just tried to force their way down the field. It didn't work, but at the same time, they were willing to try something kind of obscure in terms of a strategy, because they knew they didn't match up well against the speed from Shelby.
Yeah, and the years that he was talking about in the, I still call it the Norris Hopper, Wesley Pryor, Marcus Tate, all of those guys who Wesley's kids, I think, are playing at running back at Burns again this year. They came out, they got foot to foot, and they just tried to wedge it down the field. Basically, whatever we could do to keep Shelby's offense on the sideline. I don't see that. That may be a strategy that West Lincoln uses this Friday night, is whatever they have to do to eat the clock, get a couple of first downs. Punt's not a bad play. You've kept the Shelby offense on the sideline.
All right, so there are the 4 games for this week. Lincoln at Burns, Weddington at Crest, Kings Mountain at Charlotte Catholic, Shelby at West Lincoln. Again, those 2 in the middle, the Weddington at Crest and the Kings Mountain at Charlotte Catholic, 2 of the best matchups you're going to find in the state on Friday night. So pick one of those games and make sure you go and support your local team and your local athletic department, because it does make a tremendous difference. So you see there with my title, my co-host 2 Daves and a Mic podcast, so you need to listen to it. But needless to say, I'm going to borrow that because we're already down to 5 minutes to go in the broadcast here. So, Coach, let's pick a winner and a loser from the college football weekend. So pick me a winner, in your opinion, of the games you watched or the scores you saw or whatever. Who's your winner for the weekend in college football?
I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma. Playing Michigan, I know there was only a couple of alignments difference. One was, and correct me if I'm wrong, 16 and 18 or 15 and 17 as far as the ranking in the polls. But I think Oklahoma came out a winner by beating Michigan. That just the sound of that game is impressive. Oklahoma versus Michigan. I just think Oklahoma was a winner.
All right. I got on on my pod. I got on NC State last week for basically holding ECU to negative yardage and still figuring out a way to almost lose. But this week against Virginia, the Wolfpack again figured out a way to win, 35-31 over Virginia. They're 2-0 on the season. Coach Dave Doran, I was giving him a hard time, so I'll give him some credit for this one. So the Wolfpack 2-0, I'll pick them as my winner of the weekend. Coach, let's go with your loser. Who's your loser for the weekend?
Wow. That is, even in a win situation, and as much as we hate to say it, even in a win situation, the score between University of North Carolina and University of North Carolina at Charlotte was a little disappointing. I know it was a win for Carolina, but I also see it as we still got a lot to work on. Bill Belichick has got a lot to work on.
No question about it. My loser of the week is the Oklahoma State. There was some chatter, some junk talking back and forth between the head coaches of Oklahoma State and Oregon heading into that game, and Oregon took them behind the woodshed, 66-3. So Oregon, not Oregon State, excuse me. The big win, the loser of the week, Oklahoma State in that 66-3 game. I did that so that we could get through college, although we will say quickly, Gardner-Webb, tough loss down at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's really good. Clemson's going to have their hands full with Georgia Tech this coming week, and Gardner-Webb will host the Citadel this week. Go ahead.
Florida State.
Oh, my goodness.
We were talking about Clemson, we were talking about Georgia Tech. I don't know that anybody really wants to play Florida State right
77 to something, like
something.
6
Yeah,
or 3. It was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good times down at Tallahassee. 2 years ago, they were complaining they didn't make the playoff. Last year, they won 2 games. They're back on a high this year. They're 2-0 to start the season. We're down to the 2-minute warning here on Armchair Quarterback, so let's talk about the Panthers. I was hopeful that Bryce Young would pick up where he left off last season, and, Coach, it looked like he looked at the beginning of last season yesterday. Couldn't protect the football, whether it was interceptions or whether it was fumbles, and the Panthers just seemed to be kind of listless in that ball game against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and it seems like as soon as they get a little behind or some adversity, it's so deflating. I know that they wanted it to be different also, but there's no real excitement on that team that seems like that hey, we can overcome this. Hey, we made a couple of mistakes, let's play better. It just doesn't seem to happen. It's almost like you wonder what they do in the off season because everything looks like it's such an uphill battle from the first snap of the first game of the season, and it has looked like that for at least the last 2 years anyway.
Well, let's hope that they can turn it around. Quickly, I will say if you went to bed early last night because you thought the Baltimore Ravens had a 15-point lead late in that ball game and you thought it was over, you should have stayed up. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills rallied to win that one with a field goal at the buzzer. And I tell you what, they both looked offensively really good. Neither one of them looked defensively very good, but I think that's because the other team was so good offensively. So we'll see how those two teams, they may be playing again in the AFC Championship. Hey, we're out of time. We appreciate you joining us right here, and be back with us next week right here on Armchair Quarterback.